Okay, everybody, we are in stage one of the offseason, and we're going to start off with the coaching changes. To start out, we have the Cincinnati Bengals firing Marvin Lewis, Ken Zampese, and Pepper Johnson after a very difficult and frustrating season, one that they're not proud of at all. Marvin Lewis has been the head coach since 2003. So he's been their long-standing coach. He joined the team the same year he did in real life. And I thought it'd be funny that no matter what record they have, they always keep him because that's kind of what they did in real life. However, I just felt that it was time to make that change after a 4-13 season. Also, Marvin Lewis hasn't been as successful in my franchise as he was in real life. I mean, he's made the playoffs 3 times in about a decade, or almost a decade. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, in 9 seasons. So he's at a 33% success rate getting to the playoffs. There, of course, he has Ken Zampese right after Hugh Jackson got the head coaching gig in Oakland. And then Pepper Johnson came in after they got rid of Gary Gibbs. Pepper Johnson was a New England Patriots positions coach who finally got the job. So after the firing, we see the Cincinnati Bengals choosing John Harbaugh, the special teams coach for the Miami Dolphins, who just went to the Super Bowl with the AFC champions but lost to the San Francisco 49ers. John Harbaugh, of course, was started out with the Philadelphia Eagles, and then he went to the Dallas Cowboys for a few years in my franchise. That was his first really coaching gig stint, and he was there from 2006 to about 2010 to 2011 season. And that was about 5 years, and he went 6-11, 12-5, 7-10, 7-10, 7-10. And then he got fired. He had like Vince Young at quarterback. And so really he never got much traction in Dallas with only 1 playoff berth. But when he spent 1 season with the Miami Dolphins under his brother Jim Harbaugh, who was the head coach of the Dolphins, he now gets the AFC North coaching gig. It's not the Ravens, but we're going to see how John Harbaugh pans out as the Cincinnati Bengals head coach. Joining him is Jay Gruden and Johnny Holland. So Johnny Holland gets let go from the Seattle Seahawks. He was their defensive coordinator. And then Jay Gruden is the current, let's see, what was his position? He was the running backs coach the past 3 seasons with the New Orleans Saints. He now gets the job as the offensive coordinator for the Bengals. Next up on our list, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars with Wade Phillips, Martin Mayhew as GM, both of them out, along with Randall Cunningham, the offensive coordinator, and Dick Jauron, the defensive coordinator. We have with Wade Phillips, he went 4-13 his first season. Then he went 9-8 with David Carr making the playoffs. Then 8-9. And then 7-10. So the Jaguars start seeing their progression go backwards, which is not obviously the direction they want to be going. And they're deciding that enough's enough. Now, they did have the number 1 defense in the league, which was quite impressive, but that was not enough to keep Wade Phillips in Jacksonville. Now, as they go to finding their next coach, we see the defensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons, Ray Horton, getting the head coaching gig. Ray Horton was with the Atlanta Falcons, also boasting a top defense in the league. So he is going from the Atlanta Falcons. He has been there for almost, 8 seasons as the defensive coordinator under Brad Childress, where they've gone 8-8, 9-8, 10-7, 8-9, 10-7, 12-5, 7-10, 11-6. All really fantastic seasons. And so, most of them are fantastic other than the 7-10. And so that was their worst season, and largely due to his fantastic success as a defensive coordinator. So what we see here is the Atlanta Falcons, who had what was their defense? They were the number 2 ranked defense, whereas the Jacksonville Jaguars, when I pull them up, were the number 1 defense. So clearly, Ray Horton knows how to how to run a defense, and he's going to continue to run solid defenses moving forward with this Jaguars team. Rod Graves is hired as general manager. Joe Philbin, who had a season off, maybe not a season off, maybe we assume he went and coached college or something. And then Mike Singletary coming in as the defensive coordinator, former one-year head coach for the Oakland Raiders. Now we have the St. Louis Rams. Now the Rams here are challenged a little bit with Greg Williams and the worst record in the league. They were absolutely garbage this year. So we see that they were 3-14. Now Greg had 3 seasons with them. They went 9-8, playoffs. 11-6, playoffs. 3-14, he's out. So they had very little patience working with Greg Williams here. They were hoping to make a stronger run in the playoffs. The times that they were there, they had Jay Cutler as their quarterback, but now they are in the Andrew Luck RG3 sweepstakes with the number 1 overall pick, likely picking one of those 2 quarterbacks, whoever is the new coach. Speaking of the new coach, we have Mike McCarthy, who had a stellar season coaching Michael Vick as the offensive coordinator for the Commanders. He brings along with him Deuce Staley. He was the running backs coach in Washington. And then Chuck Pagano as he was a Saints defensive coordinator a few years back. So he brings him with him over here to the St. Louis Rams. So St. Louis has, with Mike McCarthy, McCarthy was with the Jets for several years. Some decent success there, except for, he had, I think it was 5 seasons. He went 8-9, 8-9, 11-6, 7-10, 6-11, and then was fired. He did have Alex Smith. He had Clinton Portis. He had all these weapons, and he just never did much with them. So he is out as the as the coach for the Jets, and then under the Commanders, really doing his thing with Michael Vick, where they were in the NFC Championship game, nearly making the Super Bowl. And if they did, who knows? They might have been the team to win the Super Bowl over the Miami Dolphins. And so basically, he was with Marty Morningway for 2 seasons, one with the Redskins when they went 8-9, and then with the Washington Commanders at 2011-2012 with 11-6. Next, we have the Detroit Lions, and here we have Chris Palmer, who's been one of my favorite coaching stories, an unexpected success with him. He is someone that was the offensive coordinator for the Texans the year they won the Super Bowl in 2004, and he ended up getting the coaching gig for the Lions, and he's been there for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons, and he went 7-9. Then 7-10, 8-9, 10-7, 11-6, 11-6, 7-10, and now 4-14. So with the last 2 seasons being mediocre, it was time to make a change. In addition, he shouldn't be that prominent of a coach. He wasn't that great of a coach in real life. So to be a long-standing coach with the Lions, I think it's time to move on. And so with that, Chuck Long, Todd Grantham were with him for a while. Al Saunders was the offensive coordinator when Detroit was good. And then Al Saunders went to Baltimore to be their head coach. And once Al Saunders left, everything went downhill, ironically. Todd Grantham was there the whole time. But the new coach of the Detroit Lions is Rob Ryan, the defensive coordinator for the New England Patriots. So Rob Ryan has had a lot of success with Bill Belichick. He almost kind of took the Romeo Crennel role, where Crennel won the 1 Super Bowl in 2002, and he didn't win that in my league. He won that in real life. Romeo Crennel never won a Super Bowl in my franchise, but Rob Ryan has won 2 of them because we won 2 back-to-back Super Bowls with the Patriots. So Rob Ryan is tapped in as the defensive Belichick prodigy. They do bring in Mark Dominic as general manager. They have Scott Linehan and Dan Quinn as the offensive and defensive coordinators here in Detroit. We will see how Detroit is able to bounce back from their 4-14 season. Then we have the Minnesota Vikings with Norv Turner getting the boot. Now, Turner has been with the team for, I believe, 7 years. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And every single year he has had double-digit wins. This was the first year he didn't. but it was such a bad season because it went from 10-7, 10-7, 12-5, 13-4, 11-6, 10-7. That also included a NFC Championship victory and a loss in the Super Bowl to the Patriots. But they are 4-14 this year, and I guess it just wasn't good enough. I felt this was a time to finally move on from Norv Turner. He did have Larry Kirksey with him. And during his tenure, he had Mike Munchak, who was the Buffalo Bills head coach, Rich Olson, Larry Kirksey, and then Dave McGinnis for many years. Kurt Schottenheimer had one season. But now they're going to be moving into a new era with Perry Fewell, who is the defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. Trent Balk is their general manager. He brings along with him Terry Shea, who has had some time off because he was the offensive coordinator for a bit. Then he got fired, but he was around the same time Perry Fewell, who both of them worked under Tom Coughlin. But Perry Fewell has 2 Super Bowls with the San Francisco 49ers. He has also an NFC Championship win with the 49ers, so 3 Super Bowl appearances as a DC, and now he's going to be moving to Minnesota. He brings with him Jack Del Rio to really help shore up this Minnesota Vikings defense. Then we have the Kansas City Chiefs. We can see Dick LeBeau, who had a long tenured career with the Kansas City Chiefs. He was there since 2003-2004 season, and he has had ups as high as a 12-5 season where he made the playoffs and AFC Championship game. He was Coach of the Year, and then he's been as low as 6-11, 6-10. He's had some playoff berths. He's missed the playoffs numerous times. But this year, going 7-10 was finally enough. And so the Kansas City Chiefs are going to move on from Dick LeBeau, Mike Mularkey, and Al Groh. Replacing him is Tony Sparano, who is going to be taking on the general manager role for the fired Scott Pioli and head coach. So Tony Sparano was with the Green Bay Packers, and he's bounced around the league. He's been the offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans. He has been with the Jacksonville Jaguars. But this past, I believe it's 2 seasons. No, just past 1 season. Just last year, he was with the Green Bay Packers. And I'm sort of giving him credit for Matthew Stafford not sucking this year, where the Green Bay Packers won the NFC North and made the playoffs, 10-7. And so since Sparano was part of that success, we're seeing Sparano take on this head coaching gig. We know that he's not ideally that great of a coach, but he had never had a head coaching job in my league, so this is kind of his chance to be a head coach. We'll see how long of a tenure he will actually have. He then brings with him Ken Zampese, the recently fired offensive coordinator from the Bengals. And he brings in Jim Schwartz, the former head coach and former, I believe it was Titans defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz. And so, no, it wasn't Titans, it was Panthers, I believe. Nope, it was, give me a moment here as I look through yep, it was Tennessee Titans. He was there for 5 seasons with Jeff Fisher before getting the Baltimore Ravens job, and now he's with the Kansas City Chiefs. The last coach firing is Greg Schiano and general manager Jerry Reese, along with coordinators Mike McCoy and Johnny Holland. So Seattle is another team that they hired Greg Schiano right after the retirement of Mike Holmgren. And so he went 7-10, 9-8, 7-10, missed the playoffs every year. He ran with quarterback Derek Anderson, who made the Super Bowl with the Denver Broncos. Schiano had a shorter stint. I mean, maybe other teams would have been more patient. However, the Seahawks didn't want to be below the Cardinals and below the 49ers, even though the 49ers have dominated the NFC West for several seasons. But with these removals, with this change in direction for the team, the Seattle Seahawks hire general manager Joe Banner from the Philadelphia Eagles, right? So he comes in, and in real life, he was joining Cleveland around this time, Whereas in this franchise, I still have Mike Holmgren with the Browns. And since Mike Holmgren was like president and Joe Banner was general manager, I'm kind of making Holmgren the manager for Cleveland. So there's Joe Banner going to the Seahawks this time. So from the Eagles to the Seahawks. And they hire Pete Carroll as head coach. I could have gone with someone else, but I thought, in real life, Pete Carroll joined the Seahawks the year before, and I figured this was the best time to introduce Pete Carroll to my league. He brings with him Dirk Cutter and Dick Duron, the recently fired coordinators right there. So we got Dick Duron joining the Jaguars, or joining the Seahawks. And now for the last team who fired their coach. We have the Buffalo Bills firing Mike Munchak, Dirk Cutter, and Mike Smith. So I already kind of leaked that Dirk Cutter was fired because he ended up joining the Seattle coaching staff. But here we have Mike Munchak after a chaotic sort of season for the Bills. He kind of screwed up the whole Josh Freeman rookie experience. He was the coach 7-10, 9-8, 9-8, and 7-10. He did make the playoffs the year before with Bruce Gradkowski at quarterback. But overall, just, he had Christian Ponder this year. We know that's not going to pan out. So he ends up getting fired after 4 average seasons, 1 playoff appearance. But Buffalo wants to go a different direction. And that direction is hiring Giants defensive coordinator Rex Ryan. So both Ryan brothers get a head coaching gig at the same time. And we have 2 Harbaugh brothers all getting their head coaching opportunities together. Rex Ryan did go to the Bills in real life, but he was in the Jets first. This time he goes from the New York Giants, DC, to the Buffalo Bills. We see Art Shell, a former coordinator for the Jets, joining Rex Ryan, and then Greg Schiano going from a head coach of Seattle to defensive coordinator here in Buffalo. As for some of the remaining coaches that were replaced, Rob Ryan, who's now going to Detroit, got replaced by Matt Patricia, one of the, I believe, linebacker, D-line coach for the Patriots. Then John Harbaugh is replaced by Darren Reese as the special teams coordinator in Miami. Ray Horton replaced by Raheem Morris, the DB coach in Atlanta. Perry Fewell is replaced by Pepper Johnson, the lateral move from the Bengals DC to San Francisco. So Pepper Johnson goes from one of the worst teams in the league to the Super Bowl champions. Rex Ryan is replaced in the New York Giants with Wade Phillips, the former head coach of Jacksonville. Mike McCarthy is replaced by Randall Cunningham, who I'm kind of having as that young prodigy coach that keeps bouncing around. I expect him to finally, maybe someday, get a head coaching job. Cunningham will be coaching Michael Vick, so that mobile quarterback type style. We have Tony Sparano out in Green Bay for Kansas City, and Adam Gase, the quarterback's coach for Dallas, takes on that coordinator job. And then Ron Meeks was kind of gone around this time in real life, so I decided to move him to the NCAA, And then I hired Lou Spanos from the Washington team. Yeah, excuse my Redskins logo, because they were the Redskins, and then when I switched over to Madden 22 or Madden 24, there was no mod for it, so I just kind of ran with Commanders. So we'll fix some of those. Future graphics with Washington is going to be the Washington Commanders logo, but he was the linebackers coach for 2 seasons before getting the promotion to DC of the Indianapolis Colts. And so there you have it, the wrap-up of the coaching changes here in 2012 to the 2013 off-season. Check out more videos coming up. I'll be getting the free agency, the draft, some trades, and then we'll begin some quarterback battles moving into the next season.